So my talk is a bit policy-oriented on how the EU can play a role in integrating the popular mobilization units in Iraq into the Iraqi state, which is a very hot topic now in Iraq after the elections. So the post-Islamic State debate in Iraq is centrally, politically, militarily centered on whether the PMU can be integrated into the Iraqi state or not. And the PMU is officially part of the Iraqi state, but it continues to operate beyond its borders. It continues to operate beyond the state framework. And I think the EU here has a role to play into helping the PMU into playing a positive role, a constructive role after the fall of the Islamic State. But first, I think there are two important points that need to be clarified before proceeding into this. First, I think these paramilitary forces in Iraq, they are first integral to the Iraqi society, part of the social and economic fabric. These paramilitary forces represent diverse and extensive interests in the country. So they are more than just armed formations in the country that just were established just to fight IS. The second thing, fully attributing the rise of these paramilitary forces to the post-American invasion power setting, I think it's inaccurate. To a large extent, these paramilitary forces evolved in the authoritarian period of Saddam Hussein. So there is a lot of repression legacy in Iraq that still has influence on the current moment. And I think an EU-backed strategy to either restructure the PMU or to disarm it, it must predicate on, I think, two pillars. The first one is crafting non-military incentives, taking into consideration the socio-economic interests of these actors in the country. And second is supporting a state capable of pursuing sustainably integrative policies vis-a-vis a weak state that is coercive in nature. I think a good strategy to demilitarize the PMU in Iraq and make it a very integral part of the society, and more productive in the post-IS period, and as well to close the gap with the country's elite is dialogue on non-military areas of activity. So here the EU, I think, can help through its advisory mission to Iraq, first to tailor a program to integrate the PMU economically in the Reconstruction era. And second is training non-military branches of these paramilitary forces on good governance. I think these paramilitary forces, they have social wings, economic wings. They try to provide services to their constituencies, to their areas, whether through municipalities or not. And I think training them on good governance would be generally a positive contribution for the country. And as well, it is a way to reform these paramilitary forces through a bottom-up approach. So it's not only integrating these paramilitary forces and political powers through the parliament, through other means, but it's, I think, working on these paramilitary forces from below, training them on good governance could be a good contribution to the country. But parallelly, the EU would need to work on a strong state, integrative state, a state that has strong regulatory authorities that can control and supervise the involvement of these actors in the economic process of the country. And I think the EU can use this to condition two things. First is broad-based dialogue between the paramilitary forces of the country, the PMU, and the Iraqi state. And second, to try to schedule a long-term plan to integrate these forces into the Iraqi state, whether it's disarmament or whether it's a serious strategic partnership. I think the EU should help these paramilitary forces and putting at the same time conditions on how they can become productive according to a comprehensive plan. And in return, I think that these paramilitary forces in Iraq, they would accept this because the more they're trained on good governance, the more they would gain more power in their constituencies. So that would help them, but at the same time, they would be able to impose conditions to integrate them via the Iraqi state structure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tamer. Very interesting speech. And how are relations between the new Iraqi government and you today, and how this possible role could be seen from the new government?
The new government, it comprises the major PMU actors. So you have them formally integrated politically in the Iraqi state structure. So they're formally part of a process that they have to take part of. They're part of ministries. One of them is the foreign ministry, the Ministry of Defense. These are ministries that coordinate closely with the EU. Already, many of these paramilitaries, they hold key positions in strategic and vital ministries like these. So I think it's challenging, but I think there is a prospect for more dialogue